All right, welcome back everyone to the deep dive. It's funny. We spend almost every single day interacting with other people. But how often do we really stop to think about what makes those interactions work? Or sometimes, go totally off the rails.
You're so right. It's one of those things we often take for granted, right?
Exactly. And that's precisely why I'm excited about this deep dive. We're going to be unpacking some really fascinating insights from a resource called, appropriately enough, Mastering Human Interactions. It promises some pretty powerful strategies for just that. So, are you ready to dive in?
Absolutely. I'm all ears. Let's do it.
Awesome. Okay, so right off the bat, Mastering Human Interactions emphasizes this fundamental idea. People are different. It sounds obvious, but how often do we forget that in the heat of the moment?
Right. We have these expectations of how people should act.
Yeah.
When they don't, bam, conflict.
Exactly. And the source really hits on that. It points out that, thankfully there are tons of people out there who are naturally kind, cooperative. They just make your day better right now.
Definitely. But then, let's just say not everyone operates that way. And that's where things can get tricky.
Yeah, that's where the friction comes in. And this is where the source gets super insightful. It encourages us to think about whether someone is coming at a situation more from their emotions or from a place of logic.
I see what you mean. Are they reacting impulsively based on feelings, or are they thinking it through?
Exactly. And that's a huge clue to understanding their behavior, which is step one.
Right. Absolutely. Because if you can figure out what's driving their actions, you can start to adjust your own approach.
Right. It's not about changing them. It's about adapting how you interact with them. And the source actually lays out some super helpful questions to ask yourself when you're trying to figure out where someone's coming from.
Oh, I'm curious. What?
Well, first it asks, why is this person behaving this way? What could be going on beneath the surface? Then it goes deeper. Is their reaction based on a feeling, an immediate emotion? Or is it more of a calculated, thought-out response?
Makes sense. And that really gets at the heart of their motivations.
Right. And then the last question, which I find really helpful, is, are they just having a bad day? A temporary thing? Or is this their usual way of being in the world?
That's a good one. Because if it's just a bad day, you might cut them some slack. But if it's their normal mode, then
you adjust your strategy accordingly.
Right. Right. So understanding their tendencies allows you to communicate with them more effectively.
Exactly. So moving on to the next strategy from Mastering Human Interactions. And this one's all about listening, which, again, sounds simple, right? But the source really digs into this thing called active listening.
And it's so much more than just sitting there quietly waiting for your turn to talk.
Oh, absolutely. Active listening is about being truly present, engaged with what the other person is saying. And the source gives some really concrete techniques to actually do that.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Hit me with these techniques.
Okay, so first off, it talks about eye contact. Not in a creepy, staring way, but, actually looking at the person when they're speaking.
Makes sense. Shows you're paying attention.
Right. Then it mentions using those little nonverbal cues, like nodding, or saying things like, I see, or that makes sense, just to show you're following along.
And those little things go a long way, don't they?
Oh, for sure. And then, this is crucial, avoiding interrupting. Letting them finish their thought, even if you're bursting to jump in.
Yeah, that can be tough, but so important.
It really is. But here's the most powerful technique the source emphasizes. Paraphrasing. Actually repeating back what you heard in your own words to make sure you got it right.
That's smart. Because sometimes you think you understand, but then you realize you were totally off.
Totally. And it shows the other person you're really trying to get them. The source gives this great example. Let's say your friend is venting about work, right? They're like, ugh, I'm so stressed. My boss keeps piling more and more work on me.
And a typical response might be, oh, that's awful. I hate my boss too.
Right. But using active listening, you might say something like, so you're feeling overwhelmed because you have way too much on your plate.
Oh, I see the difference. It's not about you. It's about really reflecting their experience back to them.
Exactly. And that makes them feel heard, validated. And, as the source points out, that builds trust and connection.
Powerful stuff. Okay, so what's the next strategy? I'm hooked on this.
Okay, well, this one deals with something we all struggle with. Staying cool when someone's pushing our buttons. The source acknowledges that it can be so hard to keep your composure when you feel provoked, right?
Oh, yeah, especially when someone's being totally unreasonable.
For sure. But the source has this really simple but kind of brilliant trick for managing those reactions. Ready for it?
Lay it on me. I need this.
Okay, so the next time you feel yourself getting heated, Take a deep breath and ask yourself, will this matter in 5 years?
Will it matter in 5 years? I like that.
Right. It shifts your perspective. Suddenly, that snarky comment or that annoying habit might seem a lot less important.
It's like taking a step back from the immediate situation.
Exactly. And the source emphasizes, sometimes it's worth fighting for your point, but a lot of times it's just not. So choose your battles wisely.
So true. Don't waste energy on things that don't really matter in the grand scheme of things.
Right. And when you are dealing with negativity, the source suggests consciously trying to stay calm and collected. It even gives a specific phrase you can use, which I love. I hear you, but let's keep this conversation respectful.
Ooh, I like that. It acknowledges their feelings, but sets a boundary.
Exactly. And it often diffuses the situation without escalating things.
Smart. Okay, so we've got understanding people, active listening, staying calm. What's next on the list of human interaction superpowers?
All right, this next one's called the magic of empathy. And honestly, I think it's the secret sauce for connecting with people on a deeper level.
Empathy. Yeah, it's more than just being nice, isn't it?
Right. The source defines it as truly seeing the world through another person's eyes. It's about trying to understand their perspective, their experience, even if you don't agree with them.
So instead of judging someone, you're trying to get where they're coming from.
Precisely. And the source gives a really relatable example. Let's say you're interacting with someone who's just super short-tempered, right? Like everything seems to set them off.
Happens all the time.
Right. Well, instead of immediately writing them off as a jerk, the source suggests taking a moment to consider what might be going on in their life. Maybe they're dealing with a ton of stress, a family issue, health problems, who knows?
So cut them some slack. Everyone's going through something.
Exactly. And instead of mirroring their negativity, try responding with kindness. The source actually recommends a simple question. Hey, is everything okay?
Wow, that's so simple, yet so powerful. It shows you care.
Right. And it opens up the conversation in a totally different way. It can shift the entire dynamic.
I'm seeing a theme here. It's about taking that pause, choosing a more thoughtful response.
You got it. Okay, ready for strategy number 5. This one's all about communication. And the source puts it bluntly. Clear communication is key.
Okay, that seems obvious, but I bet we all screw this up sometimes.
Oh, totally. The source points out that so many misunderstandings happen because people are either too vague in what they're saying or they make assumptions about what the other person knows.
So, like, they beat around the bush instead of just saying what they mean.
Exactly. And the source is all about being direct, specific. Like instead of saying something wishy-washy like, maybe we should do this later, say, let's meet tomorrow at 10 a.m.
Ah, I see. No room for misinterpretation there.
Right. Or instead of a vague complaint like, I feel like you don't respect my time, you could say, I need you to be on time for our meetings.
Much clearer. And less likely to lead to an argument.
Totally. Clarity minimizes confusion. That's the takeaway here.
So be specific, be direct, everyone's on the same page. Makes sense.
Okay, strategy number 6 is all about boundaries. Mastering human interactions is very clear on this one. You have to protect your time, your energy.
Oh, yeah. Boundaries are crucial. Otherwise, people will walk all over you.
Exactly. And the source is big on learning to say no gracefully but firmly. It even gives some great examples of how to rephrase those people-pleasing responses.
Like what?
Well, instead of the usual, I'll try to help, which, let's be honest, often means you're overcommitting, try saying, I won't be able to help with that today.
Direct, but not rude. I like it.
Right. And the source emphasizes that setting boundaries is not selfish, it's essential for your well-being.
It's about knowing your limits and communicating them clearly.
You got it. Now, this next strategy might surprise you. It's all about humor.
Humor? Like telling jokes to smooth things over?
Well, kind of. Mastering human interactions suggests that humor is an incredibly powerful social tool. It can lighten the mood, ease tension, make things less awkward.
Yeah, a well-timed joke can totally change the energy of a situation.
Absolutely. The source gives an example. Imagine someone's being super dramatic about something minor. You might say, with a playful tone, whoa, should we call 911 for that?
Haha, love it. It kind of pokes fun at the situation without being mean.
Exactly. And it can snap people out of that overly serious mindset.
But of course, you have to use humor carefully.
Absolutely. You have to read the room, know your audience, but when done right, it can be magic.
Agreed. Okay, what's next?
All right, this one's all about adapting to different personalities. The source points out that, what works with one person might totally flop with another.
Oh, yeah, that's so true. You can't treat everyone the same way and expect good results.
Exactly. Mastering human interactions suggests tailoring your approach to the specific personality you're dealing with. Like if someone's very sensitive, you got to be more gentle, understanding,
Makes sense. You wouldn't want to bulldoze them.
right? Whereas if someone's very logical, you might stick to facts and avoid emotional appeals.
And what about people who are, shall we say, more intense?
Yeah, the source advises staying calm, not getting sucked into their energy. It's about avoiding power struggles.
Smart. You don't want to add fuel to the fire,
Precisely. So it's about being flexible, adaptable.
like a social chameleon. Okay, what's the next strategy on our list?
This one's all about picking your battles. The source calls it avoiding unnecessary arguments.
Oh, that's a good one. I'm all for avoiding conflict whenever possible.
Right, and the source lays out this golden rule. Not every disagreement needs to become a full-blown war.
Words to live by. Honestly, sometimes it's best to just let things go.
Totally. So before you jump into an argument, the source encourages you to ask yourself, is this really worth my energy?
Like, what will I gain by winning this argument?
Exactly. And sometimes the answer is not much. And in those cases, the source recommends a simple but effective strategy. Let's agree to disagree and move on.
I love that. It's graceful and it keeps the peace.
Right. It's about recognizing that you don't have to win every single argument.
Sometimes the relationship is more important than being right.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Okay, ready for the final strategy for mastering human interactions.
Hit me with it.
This one's about the power of confidence, but not just any kind of confidence. The source emphasizes that it needs to be balanced with respect.
Oh, that's interesting. So, not cocky confidence.
Exactly. The source argues that true confidence inspires respect, while arrogance just pushes people away.
So, how do you project that kind of confident but respectful energy?
Well, the source suggests paying attention to your body language. Standing tall, speaking clearly, making eye contact.
Makes sense. It's about owning your presence.
Right. And when you're communicating your needs or opinions, be assertive, not passive or aggressive.
So, instead of saying, I think I maybe deserve a raise, you'd say,
You'd say, I've consistently exceeded expectations in my role, and I'd like to discuss a salary increase.
bam. Confident, direct, respectful. I like it.
Right. It's about knowing your worth and expressing it clearly.
Awesome. So, we've covered a lot of ground here. 10 powerful strategies for improving our interactions.
We have. And they all build on each other, right?
Yeah.
From understanding people's motivations to active listening to setting boundaries to projecting confidence with respect.
And the source really emphasizes that these aren't just one-time tactics. It's about weaving these strategies into our everyday interactions.
Exactly. It's about building those positive habits. So as we wrap up, I'd love for everyone listening to think about which of these strategies resonated most with them.
And maybe even more importantly, what's one small step you can take today to actually put it into practice?
Right. Because that's where the real magic happens. It's not just about knowing these ideas, it's about making them a part of how we show up in the world.
Couldn't agree more. It's about turning knowledge into action.
So go out there and start experimenting. See what happens when you bring a little more empathy, a little more active listening, a little more confidence to your interactions.
I think you'll be pleasantly surprised by the results.
Me too. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time.
See you then.